All right, thanks for being patient, guys.
Hey, super awesome to have you guys here. I am so looking for this conversation. I am deeply passionate about building awesome school cultures using technology. We're going to break into it. I will say maybe the timing for this wasn't the best, which is completely on me because it is my kid's last day of school. I was sitting there going, man, when I was a principal or a tech director, no way would I be sitting there on the last day of school. But you guys are here, which is absolutely awesome. So I'll share my screen and then we can get into it. And super stoked. There we go. There we go. All right. Hopefully you guys can see my screen, which is super cool. And like I said, today we're going to be continuing the conversation around building an awesome EdTech school culture. And this is kind of the Google edition. So we're going to get googly with it. I want to introduce myself. My name is Scott Gennard. I am a teaching and learning consultant for Trifera. I've had the privilege of being a principal, technology coordinator, special ed teacher. Spent about 15 years in education, transitioned over to working with Trifera, and it is awesome being here. And I'm also super stoked to kind of introduce John Hill. John, would you care to share a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Scott. This is my first webinar, everyone. So, I'm excited to be here. I am the Google Business Development Manager at Trifera, and I'm an educator for 17 years and a special educator, a reading interventionist. And when Scott asked me to talk with him about school culture, especially as it pertains to, EdTech and Google technologies, I was super excited to do that with him. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and let's just get into it. So today we're going to be talking about some of the ways that John and myself, as educators, as school leaders, we've built culture. How we've engaged with using Google tools. We'll talk about some new things out there, which are super cool. And then we have some key takeaways, and then we'll have some a quick Q&A at the end. If you do have any questions, you can toss those in the chat, and Kate will make sure that that we address those, or if I see them, we will get those in there. Also, you can find this at bit.ly/Trifera_tech culture, and that URL will be on every slide, and you can get access to the slide deck. All right, so let's kind of break into this. And I want to talk about the concept of school culture through the lens of, school leadership. And basically what I want to do is I want to tell a story and about an experience I had, and I really kind of think about and I process through school culture. And I was at a conference recently, and I was talking with a tech director, and we were talking about professional development, and he was saying how he can't do professional development at his school. That it's not, there's no time for ed tech, for technology special ed. He was really struggling with his implementation of that because their focus was PLCs. And we started talking about PLCs, and fortunately his director of PD was there too. And so we were able to kind of engage in this conversation about what their focus was. What were they doing with PLCs? They were talking about the 4 C's of 21st century learning: the communication, collaboration, critical thinking components. And we were kind of getting into that, and we were just talking about, well, how are the teachers going to be engaging in communication? How are they going to be collaborating? How are they going to be communicating, creating these elements? And we kind of quickly figured out that while they had this focus on PLCs and development, every single one of those issues can be built upon these educational technology tools. So it really kind of became a process where the focus was PLCs. How do we engage in high quality data-based instruction? How do we have high quality collaboration and communication as a team? How can we model that for our students, those same skill set? And as we kind of helped them and we kind of worked on the PD plan with that district, kind of identified that there were all of these elements that we could put in where we could convey the technology as kind of a foundation piece of knowledge to kind of help and facilitate the PLC work, the collaboration work, everything else that was happening in the classroom. And that's something that I think is really, really important when we kind of frame it that way. Um, and again, it kind of just made me think back to when I was a principal. I was kind of a principal slash tech director of a small charter school in Sacramento, and we're developing our one-to-one plan. And we were talking about what components do we want to include in our one-to-one initiative. We knew we had a big push on responsibility for students, PBIS, implementation. What are we going to do? And really, what we created was a plan that fit perfectly within what we wanted to model as a school, what we wanted to have expectations for our students, and how we were going to engage in technology. And we did that through a number of different ways. We did that through communication. We did that through making sure that we had the right device. We made sure that we did the right training with parents and collaborating with the students and the teachers. And one of the things that we did, and I could not recommend this more for teachers, for leaders, tech directors, directors of curriculum, principals, whatever it is. One of the things that we got is we got a commitment from our staff of getting Google certified, because it was really important, and we all agreed that we needed to have competency, to have confidence, to really be able to implement at a high level. And a great way to do that is to get Google certified. So for us, we had every one of our staff, except for our custodian and our lunch ladies, who were Google certified educators, at least a level 1. And what that created was this incredible process where everybody kind of spoke the same language all of a sudden. You know, when we talked about SAMR or TPAC or anything else like that, our teachers knew what we were talking about because it's ingrained into that training. It was also something that they did as a unit. So our PLC groups actually got together, and we had a day where they got together in their PLCs and got certified together. And it just kind of built this process, and there was so much engagement with the technology, and it really kind of, something that I think was incredible about that process as we moved forward in the development and the implementation, rolled out our one-to-one initiative. It was wonderful to see that our teachers had so much confidence in their implementation and were able to model this expertise to their students, which I loved. And that ultimately came to when COVID happened and we had to shut down like everybody else did. We had the capacity where, you know, we already had a one-to-one initiative where students had devices home with them. We already had a really good repair process, everything. We had teachers trained. So when school shut down, we shut down on Friday for in-person instruction. Monday, we started distance learning for our students. We were able to make even that big of a shift almost seamlessly. Not to say instruction was at 100% day one. Not to say that we didn't experience many challenges, but our teachers had the confidence to step into that extraordinary challenge, and instead of get beat down or fearful, they were able to come in and attack it, and they did an incredible job of supporting our students. I'm incredibly proud. By the time we were able to reopen a calendar year later, you know, we had a very small learning loss with our students. And it was because of that incredible work that our teachers did in that process. And that also, we had a population that was about 95% EL students. And coming from like that EL background, the low socioeconomics background for my students, I was a special ed teacher. There's so many different ways that these Google tools can be used to engage in with our students and our staff. And I was talking to John while we were discussing kind of uh, these initiatives and Google. We're doing these What's Up Wednesday videos and everything else. And John was just sharing some of his wisdom and experience, passion and expertise around the concepts of equity and how he's used Google tools to kind of enhance that process for some of our students who have the biggest need. So I would love for you to kind of share, John, if you can, some of those key takeaways that you've seen impact that school culture.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I come from a background of special education. That's my passion. It's always been my passion. And, I think accessibility is a key component to creating a school culture, to having a school that prioritizes culture, is accessibility for everybody. So, Google Workspace is just one way to make sure everyone has accessibility, and it's one way that I work at this company with Google. Google's certainly not the only way to make sure that all students, special education students and gen ed students, all have the same level of equity and accessibility. But let's talk about that for a second. So let's go to the next slide, Scotty. Cool. So Google Workspace for Education and Chrome, they make sure that they have ways to create equity through various different products that they have, various different tools that they offer for all sorts of different learning abilities. So whether it be vision or mobility or cognitive or hearing, let's take a look at some of the features that are under the vision category. So in Workspace, there's some great features like type with voice. There's the screen reader feature. We're going to talk about one of these specifically in a second. They offer Braille and adding alternative text to, for example, if there's a picture and a student is not able to see that, it will provide a description of that picture so that that student is able to, have that image and understand what that image is. As well as in Chrome, there's select to speak, and there's different other features like reading mode and screen magnifier. Let's take a look at one of them more specifically on the next slide. So screen reading allows it so that text, it provides auditory cues, and it really makes sure that all of the content that the teacher wants the student to be able to access is able to be understood. So let's move on to the next one. And so under mobility, Google Workspace offers various tools for keyboard shortcuts and dictation. And under Chrome, there's a lot of other opportunities for learning on the on-screen keyboard, touchpad setting options, and the keyboard settings. So we'll move forward here. Let's take a look at how dictation can help be a game changer for students. So, at any point during a student reading an assignment, they can have it read to them, which can be, huge in terms of comprehension for students. So, I mean, these are just some examples of how we can make all learning accessible to everybody in the classroom. We'll just kind of go forward and take a look at a couple other ones. So under cognitive, we have all sorts of different opportunities here. You could take a look, and we'll move on and look at one more specifically on the next slide. So type with voice allows the student to just talk, and it will translate that into text, which often takes away a barrier for students. We'll move on to the next one. So for hearing, there's so many options, including closed captioning and transcripts that can be generated in Google Meet, which can be very, very helpful. And then under Chrome, there's some other options there, including live caption. And then we'll take a look at the closed captioning. So during a meeting, but during other features of Google in Workspace, there's the opportunity for captions, which can also be translated for students that need things translated into a different language. Again, helping to make sure that there's equity for everybody. So I mean, Scott, that's kind of what I wanted to bring across is that, I think that there are a lot of great tech tools that can help
Yeah.
everybody. It could help level the playing field for everybody.
Well, and absolutely. And what I love to see is that the progress and development. I remember the very first one-to-one thing I did was when I was overseeing a independent living skills program at my high school. I was a special ed teacher, and we got grant funding. I got the kids all these Chromebooks, and we had these old Acer C720s that were the old. I don't know. They were like $90 a Chromebook or something, just dirt cheap things. And some of these features were kind of, I would say, the ancestors of what we have today was even then there. And it was great that they had those, but I just think constantly as kind of a look at and kind of play with all these new accessibility features, how awesome that would be for my students, that the engagement. I just think of different students I had, especially those mobility issues, where I had students with severe muscular dystrophy and just couldn't type, couldn't engage, but to kind of work around how can we kind of engage them, have them build and process and have that confidence and kind of step forward is no, those are awesome features. I love it, man.
I'd also add, Scott, that, from a special education standpoint, like when you have an IEP and you have goals and you have specific ways that these students need to learn and be differentiated and have modifications, there's now literally an endless opportunity for modifications that
Yeah.
instead of taking teachers and paraprofessional hours of their time to prepare these modified versions of instructional tools and lessons, it's it's a click of a button, makes it very easy.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm such a nerd for this sort of stuff. So it's so cool. And I mentioned it earlier. We are doing something called the What's Up Wednesday. You might see stuff like that, and that's where we kind of feature these key things. We're also going to be taking some of these elements that are kind of going out and doing some road shows at conferences and stuff like that. So we might do some of these Google exploration things at a conference near you, but super cool process. And what I love about the work that we get to do is it's just passionate educators, passionate people who love their stuff, and I think that passion comes through. Especially as we kind of build up. Can Again, I'm such an advocate of building everybody's confidence and competence, and kind of can get to that place of real engagement, excitement. So it's super cool. I also wanted to talk about some other features that are around, and maybe you guys know about this, maybe it's old news, maybe it's new, but I don't know if you guys know that there's a whole spectrum of options within Google Workspace. It's not just the classroom drive, doc sheet, slides, forms that we all know and love, but there's actually even more that's super cool. I'll share my screen here, and maybe we can talk about kind of these tiers that we have. And I'm learning more and more about these, which is super cool. But could you talk to me, John, about some of the key features in the standard and the teaching and learning upgrade?
Yeah, sure. No, I'd love to. So, what we have here is just a very succinct list of all the features and what they're good for. So starting from the free Google Workspace fundamentals, which is at the top, and then to the 3 paid tiers that are below that. Now, that free tier fundamentals is full of amazing stuff. I mean, it's dynamite. It has access to, so many classroom amazing things for the classroom. And you can take a look here. I'm not sure if everyone can see it, but we're also going to get everybody one of these afterwards, Scott, right?
Yep.
So features including classroom drive, sheets, slides, doc, Gmail, chat, all of that stuff. Some very good, loss prevention things. And this is just great for student collaboration and for sort of housing everything and having your LMS be in one place. But then if you really want to have those security and analytics features, then you're going to want to upgrade to that first of the paid tiers. So, and that'll include your security center and app management, things like that. So that's really largely about security, the security component. If you want to get that for your students, the security component, you have to have that standard piece. And then the next one up is when we really start getting into those powerful teaching tools, those really, really tremendous teaching tools. One that I love to talk about is originality reports, which allows teachers to check for plagiarism, but not only in sort of that negative way, also to help students understand how to create their own author's voice, how to write papers, how to use other material to create their own. So that's a great feature within the teaching and learning upgrade, but there are so many. And then that highest tier, Scott, is that plus tier. Now that's going to be comprehensive of all of the features here. So you're going to have like the whole thing.
I think something that I think is super cool about that plus feature is it has a whole new level of security dashboards. And man, the granular way that you can kind of look up a security breach or kind of research your auditing process, I think is awesome. It also syncs rosters from to Classroom from NESIS, which is amazing too. Like day one, your teacher walks in and their classrooms are already made. You transfer a student from period 2 to period 3, or from this math to that math, and it'll do that work for you. And so I love it. I think it's awesome. And it's kind of cool. I will say I have said I don't know if this is talked about enough in the Google spheres, that there's the fundamentals, which is amazing, but then there's all these other layers. I mean, especially that teaching and learning upgrade. Man, I mean, the breakout rooms and meets, the originality reports, just so many different things that are included in that. Just jazzes me up. I get excited about it. But yeah, so couple of key takeaways for you guys as you're kind of thinking of building your culture and how do we build our culture leveraging these Google tools. I really want to say, these 4 C's that come into 21st century thinking: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. I really think that if you leverage the same skills that you want the students to exhibit in your teachers, that's just going to enhance that process so much. So really, really encourage, especially if you're thinking, how do I engage in these technology trainings? How do I engage in these topics? Really kind of integrate it. I know for me, we had a Google Classroom where every one of my staff was a student in that Google Classroom. And that's how I communicated to them. I would send them assignments. I would do stuff. They'd turn stuff in. It was awesome. They had that experience. Every one of our PLCs had a collaborative Google Classroom that they would jump in and create resources. And then anyone within that PLC could just grab that assignment and bring it into their Google Classroom. So many different tips and tricks and things that can come out of that process. And then again, it just enhanced that experience for them because they were so used to working in that environment when they did an assignment for the students, or they could troubleshoot issues as they came. So many things that were just enhanced through that process. Leveraging Google certification. If you're familiar with our Trafera PD, which is our online PD portal, we do have classes on the level 1 and level 2 certifications. There's also great stuff from Google directly. I think it's $15 for the level 1, $25 for the level 2. I have advocated this. I think it's some of the best thing you can do to kind of get that baseline real comfort level. I've seen different schools address the encouragement in so many different ways, from a one-time payment incentive to credit to advance on the pay scale for their staff to get those, or all sorts of different things to kind of encourage their teachers and staff to get that certification process. As John said, that concept of equity with Google, those extraordinary tools that can use that can kind of bridge that gap from where our students are to where they want to be. We never want to have the barrier be something that can be overcome by leveraging these tools, which is awesome. And Google's done an absolutely incredible job of offering these tools.
Scott, I just wanted to say,
Yeah, please, John.
I think those two go together, right? So I
Yep.
think you're really able to make that equity happen when you could wield those tools
Mhm.
really efficiently. And I think part of being able to understand how these tools all work together efficiently is to have those Google certifications. Is, you know, I think that's
Well,
important.
And they embed that within the certification too, both in the training and the test. They embed that information. So I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
And then I had
Absolutely.
one question. So
Yep.
you had that anecdote at the beginning about your school and everyone being Google certified, just about, except for perhaps the school nurse.
Yep.
And, you know, so my question
School
is,
nurse was certified.
Okay, maybe somebody
Custodian and lunch ladies. Yep.
Right, but I guess who had that vision? Like, who made that happen, and how did that come together? Because that's tremendous.
So I'll talk about this. Absolutely. So it was one of those things where we had the extraordinary privilege of developing a one-to-one program and a technology program where when I started, we had very little tech at the campus. However, it was a passion of mine, and I was given the freedom to really kind of take that tech integration in our school, take it to that next level, and do whatever I wanted, basically, in that capacity. And so what I did is I spent 6 months sitting down in my staff, getting parent input, student input, identifying what we thought would be the perfect implementation to technology. And then we just broke down barriers that we saw to kind of get to that implementation. And one of the things that came out in that process with my teachers was that thing of competency and how do we make sure everybody knows. So it was actually driven through the process. It was something that I was advocating for. So I was kind of driving conversations to that to a degree. We were able to kind of create the space to do that. I want to say we offered a $250 stipend for a level 1 and a $500 stipend for a level 2 for our teachers. So we had the flexibility to do that. But it was one of those things where in the process, it was identified that we needed everyone to be confident in this ecosystem that they weren't familiar with. And then something that was passionate for me is not just for our teachers, but I really was like, our paras need to be certified. My secretary needs to be certified. Our attendance gal, she needs to be certified, because I didn't want it to be something where, we're doing all this collaborative work. I need their input. I need their process in that. And so for me, it didn't make any sense that we would have all this work on Google certification. And then if I sent something to my secretary, I had to convert a Google Doc into a Microsoft Word document or something. So it was everybody together. It was super cool too, from a team building aspect, because it was with classified and certificated staff, which can sometimes be a tricky thing, but we had it was a cool process to kind of get into, and breaking up into teams and getting everybody certified and celebrating people who got certified first and everything. So it was an awesome process.
Sounds like everybody was really engaged and invested in making it happen. It's a big team effort.
Yeah, and it was great. And I think it was one of those things where, like anything, we had those naysayers and we had those people who were kind of negative Nancy's about it, or maybe didn't think they could do it. But once we got some momentum heading in that direction, then people started to get those incentives and to get that encouragement. It was great. Now, great question. I love talking about my old school. Go Huskies. We We also talked about the 3 tiers, or I guess the 4 tiers of Google license. There's the fundamental, then there's the standard, teach-in learning, and education plus. There's more information that we will have coming out. Kate did mention in the chat, we'll send out the copy of that one-sheeter that we had. There's also a link to that in the chat. And I think it's really about finding the right fit for your needs and really kind of engage in that planning process, talking with your team, identifying, there's so much out there, but you really want to take the time to kind of find the thing that you want to do and then really do that to an extremely high level. So that is what we have for you. We love to hear from you. We'd love to continue the conversation with you. If you'd like to engage in a conversation with myself, John, whatever it is, we'd love to continue with that. You can fill that out in the survey. Make sure you do the exit survey so that you can get your free coffee. And thank you so much for coming on this. I know it's a crazy time of year. We've got some really cool stuff coming up. Some other lunch and learns and webinars and different events. There's one next week with Google,
there is.
right?
You beat me to it. We have a really, I know, again, this time of year is crazy, and I know so many of you have huge fish to fry with the end of the school year, but next week we have a really fun webinar. John is joining us again, as well as Casey Bell from Shake Up Learning. They're going to be talking about I think it's 100 quick tips for using Google at your school. So there's going to be some stuff for teachers and that. There's going to be some stuff for tech directors, kind of whatever your role is. We're going to be trying to hit on some different ways and different tips that you can use for bringing Google to your school. So that's going to be super fun. I will put the link to that in the chat as well. There's all sorts of stuff in the chat for you. We have that one pager. We have a link to the webinar. We've got
What's Up Wednesdays.
What's Up Wednesdays, yeah. So, but again, thank you all so much for spending some really highly valuable time with us this afternoon. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you joining us throughout the school year on all of our webinars. And thanks again to our presenters, Scott and John. And hopefully we see you next week. And I'm excited for all of you to get to start your summer.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have an awesome day.
Bye.